Apple's introduction to AI. What does this tell us about its approach to AI, how it's communicating this with the public, and also what does this tell us about the behind the scenes story of how Apple is getting into AI? Let's take a look. Apple's new press event is going to be on Monday, the 9th of September. It's going to reveal the new iPhone 16 and also the A18 processor. From the promotional materials, the new Siri symbol, which we first saw at WWDC, we can tell that there's going to be a strong focus on the brand new AI features. So if we have a look back at WWDC, it is actually very illuminating in showing us some interesting aspects about Apple's strategy when it comes to AI. The past couple of years has seen the dawn of the AI age. We've seen large language learning models, we've seen AI tools, and even AI devices. Everybody seems to be focused on AI. And in comparison to all of that, Apple has really said nothing. So it was good at the WWDC stage to see Tim Cook come out and basically reveal that Apple is jumping in with both feet with AI. Now, this is actually quite unusual because when it comes to the technology aspect of its product, the technology details, Apple tends to not really give too much information about that. And what I mean by that is, for example, with its iPhones and its iPads, it doesn't reveal the memory inside of these devices. It prefers for users just to be focused on what the product experience offers them. Apple normally likes to keep the tech details behind the scenes, but this was too big a step to keep hidden. It had to communicate it with its customers. Let's talk about the market positioning of its AI product, and that starts with the name. Instead of just calling it Apple AI, Apple has decided to call it Apple Intelligence instead of artificial intelligence. And this really seems silly. It's kind of, well, it is effectively rebranding AI. Why has it chosen to do this? Well, maybe the word artificial sounds negative because it sounds less than genuine, but there have been some negative connotations with the terms AI. If we jump back to the beginning of 2023, there was a lot of coverage of AI and what it can do and the bad things about it. And when it came to the Google I/O conference in May 2023, there was plenty of mentions of the word AI. And so it was a big talking point, and Google had a lot of AI products it wanted to talk about.
As you may have heard, AI is having a very busy year.
So when it came to Apple's WWDC event in June 2023, there was no mention of AI at all. It was conspicuous by its absence, and this wasn't missed. Everybody in the media seemed to notice this as well. It's like there was press coverage, articles. Why wasn't Apple referencing AI? Now, the thinking at the time was it didn't want to use something that was perceived to be negative, but it might, in hindsight, also have been it never had a proper range of AI products. Now, that might sound absolutely ridiculous because Apple is a company with one of the largest market caps in the world, along with Microsoft and Nvidia. So how is it possible a company like Apple could not have a proper AI solution? And the answer is quite clear. Sometimes these mega big tech companies, they are not focused on the right developments. We've seen this with Microsoft. Microsoft leading the personal computer industry with its Windows software. Yet it was not quite aware of the development of an internet browser, and so it ended up buying its own and then creating Internet Explorer. It was not really aware of what was going to be happening with the smartphone, and you would think it would have been the first to create and dominate the smartphone market, but it wasn't. It was Apple. So it missed the boat with that. And then when it comes to AI, you would have thought that Microsoft would have been prepared with that, but it wasn't. So it had to make these big business deals with OpenAI to ensure that it had a proper, adequate AI solution. And now it's integrated that into its Microsoft products. And it's not a reach to think that Apple was in the same position as Microsoft. which is that despite being this mega profitable big tech company, it had simply not focused on the right thing, which was developing AI for its products. And if it was in that position, it would then have had to get an AI product for itself from somewhere. Apple rebranded the meaning of AI, but also during the WWDC conference, it used the tagline
AI for the rest of us.
AI for the rest of us. And this is really illuminating because the underlying meaning is that AI and the surrounding conversations regarding it can be exclusionary for people who've never used it before. So Apple is trying to make it approachable for first-time users, and that is the message that it's effectively saying. It's saying we will introduce you to AI and we're going to make it easy for you, easy to use. Design is so important to Apple. We know it with everything it does when it comes to its icons or the devices themselves. Now, when it comes to the AI aesthetic, this is really interesting because it's something that you might not have predicted that Apple would have used. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to AI and technology, there is definitely a style. If we look at the Tesla cars or the X1 robots, there is a metallic sheen to them, which is metallic gray, metallic silver, metallic black, very futuristic. Or if you look at the movie I, Robot, there are robots in that as well.
I did not murder him!
The robot companies, they seem to be emulating that, and that color scheme is what we understand to represent technology or future technology. Apple has eschewed that. Instead, it has decided to go for a different approach. It is referring to the AI as not a technical product, but almost a magical product. And so when you have a look at the new revised Siri symbol, it is magical and moving and changing. And when you talk to Siri and it lights up the outline of the iPhone. So when Apple first reveals it on screen, there is some music in the background and it is spiritual, almost magical. On top of that, when we see the examples of image generation and how they're forming on screen, they are demonstrated as almost being, again, a magical portal opening up. So the aesthetic is very much about being magical and something that's quite far removed from technology. Let's talk about Siri, Apple's broken product. And I don't say that as a hater, but as a long-time fan of Apple products, I have experienced it and I know it's a product that just simply doesn't work. From the time it was introduced with the iPhone 4S, it was interesting and it was exciting, but it never delivered on the promise. And even now, it has big problems in understanding the way people speak, understanding the way I speak, in dictation, and then more than just its ability to understand voice, its capabilities in what it can do has just simply been lacking. And this is in comparison to other personal assistants such as Alexa, such as the Google voice companion. It's really just not been good enough. So what we saw at WWDC was an upgraded Siri, something that we've been asking for years. And it has got the ability to engage in a proper conversation, to understand, and then all these AI capabilities, such as being able to understand the context of what's going on a user's screen on an Apple device, and the ability to do quite a lot more. So the question I'm going to put to you is, why now? Why is Siri getting this upgrade right now, this year, after all these years? Is it that suddenly Apple's AI technology has suddenly improved? Well, there is one YouTuber who runs a YouTube and Apple cheerleader channel. I'm not going to mention his name, but following the WWDC event, he assumed that what had happened is that Apple has actually, after all these years, suddenly cracked it, suddenly realized how to solve the Siri problem and delivered and created this new Siri product. But maybe he shouldn't be assuming. I mean, we don't have the answers, but maybe there is more to it. And what do I mean by that? Well, Apple revealed that the new revised Siri will be able to connect to OpenAI's ChatGPT so that when customers they have questions and they route them through Siri, Siri can actually decide if it's a question that ChatGPT might be able to answer best. So throughout the whole WWDC, this was the only confirmed connection between Apple and OpenAI, which is the use of its search function. There was no other mention of any sort of connection at all. And by just making this one reference to it, you might infer that that is the only connection between Apple and OpenAI. And I think that's quite deliberate. But actually, I believe there is more than likely bigger connections between the two. And the reason is that Apple has now suddenly been able to offer a improved Siri. It's been able to offer these new features, including a context-aware AI and these rewrite features. All of these great Apple features or these great AI features that we've previously seen earlier this year with ChatGPT. So is it a coincidence that Apple has just managed to gain all these features at the same time we see the start of a relationship between these two big companies? And whilst we don't have any answers, I suspect the actual answer is that Apple has licensed a lot of its technology, its AI technology, from OpenAI in some kind of a deal. The details, they're not clear to us. But definitely for Siri to finally get that upgrade now after all these years, definitely Apple had to get the solution from somewhere else. And I believe it was from ChatGPT, OpenAI. After all is said and done, I'm really happy that Apple is finally moving into AI and how this is going to be a benefit for the mainstream public. I was really first becoming aware of AI functions and products back in 2019 with Supergan and this person does not exist or this cat does not exist. And it's been 5 years and how much has changed in that time, how much there's been so many developments, and it's so exciting. And I'm such a beginner and I'm a person who's still an enthusiast for this, so it can be daunting for the mainstream public. So the fact that we are now going to be able to get AI used in a practical sense on our devices just to make our lives a little bit easier, I think that's going to be a great benefit, and it's great that it's finally going to be introduced to the masses through a device that everybody will have eventually once they get a new iPhone or a new iPad or whatever else they buy. So this is an exciting start because it means that AI is going to be going mainstream.